Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that he will continue to insist on maintaining Israeli presence along the Philadelphia corridor. That's a narrow band along Gaza's border with Egypt. And this as Israel witnesses massive protests after the bodies of 6 hostages were recovered from a tunnel in the city of Rafah. People are demanding Netanyahu to do more to bring home the remaining estimated 101 hostages. Meanwhile, the Labour-led government in the United Kingdom, it's announced that it is partially suspending arms exports to Israel, citing a clear risk that the use of British weapons in Gaza could have breached international humanitarian law. The Starmer-led Labour government's decision, it came on the heels of US President Joe Biden saying that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was not doing enough to secure a hostage release deal. What options is Netanyahu left with at a time of growing discord within his cabinet, anger among Israelis and pressure from allies? My name is Hemkor Soroya, and to discuss this, we're now being joined by Scott Lucas, Professor of International Politics, Clinton Institute University, College Dublin. Thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One.
Thank you for having me here.
Now, sir, the discovery of bodies of 6 hostages have led to the latest wave of anger and outrage, but pressure, it has been mounting on the Israeli Prime Minister for quite some time now. However, we've seen that Israel continues to push ahead with its planned Gaza operations. Now, with allies like the United States and UK pressuring Netanyahu, do you think we will see any sort of a shift in Israel's position?
I've said for months that if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was to be stopped from this open-ended war in Gaza, in which more than 40,000 Gazans, the large majority of civilians, have been killed, it would be because of pressure inside Israel. Now that pressure has escalated, as you noted, since the bodies of 6 more Israeli hostages shot and killed by Hamas have been retrieved. We had more than 300,000 people out in protest over the weekend in cities like Tel Aviv, in front of the Prime Minister's homes in Jerusalem and Caesarea. We had a national strike yesterday. We have seen opposition leaders firmly denounce Netanyahu over his persistence with the war. But, and I must emphasize but, Benjamin Netanyahu last night in Israel redoubled his effort to continue the military operations, because not only did he reject a ceasefire, he added additional demands. He said that Israel must be allowed to keep troops in what is called the Philadelphia corridor. Now, that is a 14-kilometer strip along the border between Gaza and Egypt, not Gaza and Israel, Gaza and Egypt. So Netanyahu is not going to stop. He, in fact, is effectively saying, make me stop. And we now have to look to someone like the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant. Will Yoav Gallant finally stand up to Netanyahu publicly? He has done so privately. But will he stand up to Netanyahu publicly and say, we cannot continue like this?
Right, Professor. Now, while I also want to talk to you about the role of allies here, while Joe Biden has said that Netanyahu is not doing enough to secure a ceasefire deal, do you think the allies have done enough to bring about peace in the region? Do you think verbal condemnation and limited ban on arms supplies, do you think that goes far enough?
Well, first of all, let me start by saying that the international community, and here we have to go beyond the United States. We have to go beyond the United Kingdom. We have to look at countries across Europe. We have to look at countries in Asia like India. They have tried since Hamas's own mass killing on October 7th, when more than 1,200 people were killed. They have tried to tell the Israeli government, look, open-ended military operations against Gaza civilians will not destroy Hamas, and in fact will probably keep Hamas in power, because civilians will see no other protector. So it's not that the international community hasn't done anything. Think about the arrest warrants against Netanyahu from the International Criminal Court, because he is determined to do this. That said, the United States government, the Biden administration, clearly has not done what it could do to try to limit the Israelis. It has not halted the supply of military equipment to Israel. It has not called for an unconditional ceasefire. And even though the UK has finally banned 30 export licenses for military equipment to Israel, that's only a small token step and a very late step in what the UK could have done.
Right, absolutely. And sir, coming back to the point that you were making earlier about pressure within Israel, Netanyahu is also facing opposition, discord within his own cabinet, as you mentioned. Do you think Netanyahu's defiance stems from the need to appease the hardliners in his cabinet? Can Israel continue to sustain this fight without the support of allies, or do you think that support will continue despite these latest developments?
There clearly is a divided cabinet in which some, I think, now want Israel to pull back on military operations, but as you mentioned, the far-right ministers, the finance minister Smotrich, the internal security minister, national security minister Ben-Gvir, are actually calling for an ethnic cleansing of Gaza. That said, and let me please be clear with your viewers, the day that Benjamin Netanyahu halts Israeli military operations, unless Hamas has been destroyed, his words, the day that he halts the operations, he faces a very uncertain political future because there will be early elections, and he faces an uncertain legal future because he could be put on trial for bribery charges. That, I think, is the primary reason, the personal reason why Netanyahu continues.
So would you say that Netanyahu at this point is pursuing his personal interests?
Without doubt. I mean, now, personal interests are not separate from political interest or what he would call Israeli interest. But the fact of the matter is that Benjamin Netanyahu knows that personally, if Hamas remains in power in Gaza, then his own future, his political and legal future, is in jeopardy.
All right. Well, Professor, thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One with your insights on this.
Thank you.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.